Betty White lived a double life for years, and no one knew, until now. For decades, America thought it knew Betty White, the smiling comedian, the television legend, the woman who somehow made turning 90 look like a career milestone. But when I looked past the television image, I found another Betty White entirely. And honestly, that private side may explain why she remained so grounded after becoming one of the most recognizable women in America. Most people remember Betty as Rose Nyland. That innocent smile, those bizarre stories about Saint Olaf, that almost impossible ability to make a simple sentence funny. But long before Rose, before the Golden Girls, before Hollywood treated her like royalty, Betty White had a completely different dream. She wanted to work with animals. Not occasionally. Not as a celebrity hobby. She once dreamed of becoming a forest ranger or zookeeper. And that wasn't some random childhood fantasy that disappeared when she became famous. It stayed with her for the rest of her life. That's the part that surprised me. Because while America was watching Betty White build one of the longest careers in television history, she was quietly devoting enormous amounts of her time and money to animals. Two lives. One in front of the camera, one far away from it, and the second one mattered deeply to her. Betty was born in 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois, but her family eventually settled in Beverly Hills. That sounds glamorous. It wasn't. Her family lived through the Great Depression, and her father struggled financially. He built radios by hand and sometimes traded them for food, clothing, and other necessities. And something else happened during those difficult years. Animals kept appearing at the White household. Her father would sometimes bring home dogs whose owners could no longer afford to care for them. Betty grew up seeing animals not as possessions, but as companions. That stayed with her. Years later, when she was one of the most successful performers in America, she still talked about animals with the enthusiasm of that little girl. I find that fascinating. Fame changed almost everything around her. Apparently, it didn't change that. But Betty's path to television wasn't smooth. Hollywood rejected her. Casting people told her she wasn't photogenic enough to become a movie star. Imagine hearing that at the beginning of your career. Today, it's almost hard to believe. But Betty didn't quit. She moved toward television instead. And television was still young. One of her early jobs was Hollywood on Television, a live program that reportedly ran for hours a day, 6 days a week. There was no easy editing, no recording something again because a joke didn't work. You made the mistake in front of everyone. And Betty learned how to survive it. More importantly, she learned how to control a room. That skill eventually became one of the biggest weapons in her career. But here's another part people sometimes forget. Betty didn't want to simply be the woman standing in front of the camera. In 1952, she helped form Bandy Productions. She became a producer. For a woman working in television at that time, that was a serious move. She wanted some control over what audiences actually saw. That led to Life with Elizabeth, where she starred and produced. So the public Betty White was already more complicated than the cheerful actress people imagined.